Dear friends, today's episode is unusual. We'll be interviewing Alexander Dzidzaria. We usually film episodes on expert or medical topics where Alexander states he is completely sure during recording. But there are many heartfelt, interesting questions from the guys from the audience, from those who trust us, who are subscribed. I insisted we record an episode to answer the questions. And today we've gathered a few questions. I'll be asking them.
I rarely answer questions publicly. People insisted, saying it's necessary. Honestly, I'm not a fan of being public, not to get involved in any medical topics. Well, some people think I can share this because I have some life experience. I've achieved something somewhere. Well, since it's my own audience that's asking, I'm not claiming to have a wide one. Well, I guess it would be right to try filming in this format once and see what comes out of it. It's unusual for me. Honestly, it's easier for me to discuss medical topics. Let's try it. Yeah, I left a request on Telegram, and you sent in your questions literally just an hour ago. We're filming with a prompt. Let's do it.
Let's get started. There were 3 identical questions. I'll read one. A question from the guys aged 20-25. Am I truly doing enough to ensure a good future for myself and my loved ones, or could I do more? There's a question, kind of naive, but the person regularly has doubts. Are they going in the right direction or not? The guidelines are unclear, with bloggers giving conflicting advice. So how do you find yourself? Where should you go? And not make a mistake with your direction when you realize you're young, you have potential, and you don't want to waste it.
You know, there are actually so many hidden pitfalls in this question. And what does it mean to be young? Is it 6 years old, 20 years old, or 40 years old? I also consider myself young, even though I'll be 39 in 2 weeks. And what does it mean to be good? Good. If we ask my patients, let's say you and I go to the oncology department right now and ask, what does it mean to be good? Some might say it's when a chemo session passes without nausea or when test results allow for a 4th round of treatment. Recovery isn't being discussed, it's all relative. If we take these classic scenarios, what does good mean? Probably if a young person is asking this question, then it's in his understanding. It's an apartment that he wants for himself and for his parents to be doing well. Financial well-being or prosperity means having regular monthly income from somewhere, allowing him to drive cars. So this is the classic understanding of everything is good. For me, it's different because every day I see people who dreamed about something, saved up for something, worried about something, or were offended by someone. Their life is split into before and after. And when something like cancer comes into your life, for example, very often your values change a lot. And probably here, if we're talking about those classic imposed values, then honestly, I don't really like giving advice. Yesterday, my friend asked for advice. And I said, people often seek advice to share responsibility. And that's why probably the most important principle of a real man is not to ask for advice. Learn from people, but don't ask for advice because you make the decision yourself. It's your life, and you know, like in your own country, you have many advisors, but you have to make the decision yourself and you have to take responsibility yourself. There are people whose life path you like. You shouldn't just watch his actions, but look at what qualities led him to achieve something. That's why I've never copied anyone. Instead, I analyze people's life paths to develop the qualities that made them successful. Purposefulness, perseverance, the ability to endure. I'm more interested in developing qualities than just learning how to do something. If all these coaches truly knew what, where, and how to act, I'm not sure. I think life is so unpredictable, so you just can't guess. But my principle is this. If you want to do something for a long time, if we're talking about a long life, then you need to do what brings you pleasure. If it brings you pleasure, you'll find the motivation and strength to improve and move forward each day. The most important thing is that it excites you. How can it excite you if you don't like it, if your parents forced it on you, or if society forced it on you? Many people appear successful or wealthy, yet remain unhappy. So in reality, the most important thing is to understand what happiness means to you. That's the most important thing, to understand what happiness means to you. And you'll always find the tools. It's most important to set point B correctly. Very often people get cars and realize they're unhappy. They start earning money and realize that happiness isn't there. Happiness comes from children or public recognition, not just wealth or fame. You know, there are people who come and say, yes, I'm rich, but I'm unknown. There's always something missing. That's human nature, always striving. I would probably try to direct my energy in life through pleasure. I would look for what brings me joy. I'm lucky in life. My job brings me a lot of pleasure. I love performing surgeries. I love doing operations. I'm even willing to pay extra myself sometimes just to do an additional surgery, sometimes a big one. I enjoy it. If you like it, you can
Move forward in this.
enjoy yourself like a fish in water. And if you don't like it, you might be able to do it well, but you won't be able to do it for long. And if you can do it for a long time, then you won't be able to do it well. You can only do something well for a long time if you enjoy it. So probably my main answer is to see what brings you pleasure. You need to know where your own happiness comes from, not what's imposed, but what matters to you. Learn to listen to yourself and pursue that. You should probably ask others for less advice.
Take more responsibility for
Yourself, yes, the most important thing is to take
responsibility. Now, the guys are already asking about switching careers. Is it even worth changing your professional path at 2022? That's the same thing.
change at 20 years old. Listen, I had a student when I was studying media. He was almost 50 years old. He was gray-haired and bald. We used to joke about whether he'd finish his studies or die first. We were pretty rough. He wasn't in my group, but the man found his calling just like that.
He began studying medicine at 45 or 50.
He's 40, but he looked there.
It's fine, it's not too late.
Yeah, that's why it's never too late to be happy. It's never too late to be happy. So at 20, you can change your profession. Someone asked this question before. And regarding goals, they change because you change. At 20, you have one goal, at 30, another, and at 40, a third. At 20, you focus on muscles and recognition. At 30, on having a child. At 40, on being. Not bothered by back pain. So everyone has their own goals and they change. You know, it's like Sitnikov said, you and your wife sailed off somewhere to Australia, then Australia got flooded. Well, when you once got into the boat and started sailing, did you have common goals? But it got flooded, and now sometimes people need different paths leading to separation, like in divorce, when final goals differ. People change paths and drift apart, same here. Someone enters medicine like us, but many doctors leave. Why? Because their idea of it changes often. A huge number of paperwork, some complaints, a bunch of unfounded claims against you from patients, from management, that it's actually very difficult, hard, that not everyone really appreciates it, and they leave a profession that wasn't so easy to get into. And how many people like that are there? That's normal.
Or is it natural selection or a system that needs changing? I know this because my own sister studied to be a doctor, worked as a general practitioner for half a year or a couple of years, said it was brutal, and went to work in information technology.
Well,
Everything is done completely from scratch, which is typical for the system. Or do you think something needs to be radically changed here?
there's this learning curve. When you expect something from yourself at a certain time, it looks like this. But then there's the reality curve. When you're inexperienced, when you don't know anything, don't know how to do anything, and you expect something from yourself, you take into account your status or something, but probably it won't happen. It seems you just don't know how to do something else. You quickly learn everything is new and interesting. Then your expectations keep growing, but what you're able to do can't keep up with them anymore. And then you experience a setback. Usually in medicine, this is called a curve. Albert Bandura. If you Google it, you can see that there's a setback you have to endure, and then you come through it and start moving upward again. Life has many setbacks, but some know how to endure them. They, on the contrary, then reach a point where what they expect from themselves lags behind what they actually achieve. And this desire to quit and give up, it's not always the right thing to do, actually. That's why the guys who left the profession didn't all make the right choice. There are moments that you just need to endure sometimes. Well, that's normal. Can you imagine you've learned 90% of some procedures and there's no more growth for you? You want something new, or you think you won't get any better, and then suddenly you move forward again. Just look at the view graphs. They always go like this.
There's a lot of volatility there. The question is about income and so on. I see that reels and shares are starting to go viral, where people say that the modern generation has it the hardest. They'll never be able to earn enough. It was easier to work for your own apartment before. And indeed, young people are starting to think that it's normal to have cars, apartments, and so on. It's something like Have you heard that before? Do you agree? What are your thoughts?
I have a friend. If we are extremely times we've talked, we have very different views on things getting more expensive. Next time, let's be honest. He tries to save money, and I try to earn more. That is, I don't try to spend my energy on that. Energy is focus, time, attention, action spent on thinking about where. Because it's actually much easier to earn than to save, really. No one has ever become rich or super wealthy just by saving. If something is expensive, as I see it, I try to look at it through the lens that it means I don't earn enough, and that's how it works for me. And actually, I had a moment in my life right now. I only accept oncology cases, I treat them for free and operate there. There was a time in my life when I did a lot of consultations just to pay off my mortgage. And when I paid it off, I stopped consulting just to make money. I stopped consulting for the sake of money, and now I consult to help people. I see. I realized, first of all, that if your formula for earning is that the more you work, the more you earn, that's a bad formula. But that's how it is for me. Because my time, of course, my value as a unit of execution, of course, everything has its price limit. That's why you have a limit to your potential earnings, and the formula where you work super hard isn't a very good one. I realized I need to create mechanisms because my time, value, and the money I can honestly earn are all limited. But if you create mechanisms where you aren't directly involved, you can multiply them, make copies, and so on. That's why I focused on making sure my overall goal in business has always been this. So I could keep working, enjoy my job, and support those who rely on me. My mom, my sister, my grandmother, my wife, my kids, her parents. And for that, my job, even though it's super noble, isn't really suitable.
There's also a question here. How long should you live with your parents, and at what age is a man expected to help with things? Is he required to help?
It's different for everyone. I saw someone filming and they say that parents are not our children. For me, I was raised in a Caucasian family, so I must take care of my parents until their last breath. I must be by their side, help them. Helping means that they don't need anything. They don't have to worry about where to live or what to eat. I want to give them gifts and ensure they're comfortable, just like I did with my own parents. For me, that's normal. It's not normal for everyone. We often have children here, we often have grandmothers and grandfathers here who no one visits, no one comes to see them. They are lying here with serious illnesses and no one comes to visit them. From discharge to... We see no one from hospitalization to discharge. To me, family includes not only my wife and child, but also my mom, grandmother, and sister. Modern psychology doesn't really support that. But I can't be truly happy if those people whom I consider my family are unhappy. I try, so that's important to me. And today we were discussing how much of my earnings I spend on myself. I told you I spend 20 to 30% on myself and 70% of the money.
I have left.
Not everyone feels that way, but it's important to me and I want it. I don't even think about it.
It brings joy and peace.
Your loved one's happiness, of course, and
the fact that you can help them. That is, you give back. I mean, psychologists might say that this is probably something wrong, but in reality, it brings a lot of happiness and peace.
That's probably how I give back, even to my mom. Because she lived a difficult life, she went through so much. There was everything in her life. War. We moved to another country with nothing. This is my gratitude. Father left us early. He passed away. And she pulled us through, gave us an education. This is very valuable to me, and I want to instill this attitude in my own son by example. Not because I want him to care for me. Classic values should be passed on, especially now as many things are being imposed on us. I don't really like or agree with what's often promoted nowadays. This idea that a wife is just someone for today, and tomorrow it could be someone else. They say a man should act a certain way, but no one owes anyone. Still, there are ideas of man and woman, and it's important to live up to those. And for me, choosing a spouse was a very serious decision. For example, I couldn't take it lightly. Like many people meet and marry a month later. For me, in my understanding, and we were together for a long time, I made sure that she was my person. We went through some challenges together, then we got married, and then we had a child. Now I see people treating it like leasing, one person today, another tomorrow, like it's nothing. That's how it is.
There's a question about this, and you brought up a very important topic about trends. There's a well-known trend. How much should a real man earn? And
The question is already wrong.
girls, they always say things like that and so on. Many guys, they really see it as stress, like I'm somehow not right because I don't earn that much. Some guys have even told these girls, thanks, I can't afford you. And you want to say something to these guys, it's a terrible
Trend. A woman should never judge a man, and the criteria for being a man are not about how much he earns. There are a huge number of professions where people don't make much money. And not all doctors make good money, not all teachers make good money, and not all firefighters make good money. You have to realize that, especially in the provinces, many people have tough jobs. Meanwhile, he works somewhere, I'm not sure where, at the Red Cross, and doesn't make that much, but it's a difficult, demanding job. Or a miner. Is that women's work? That's not a job, just hard work. That makes someone not a man. Here, I think the consumerist attitude toward men is terrible. It's terrible. And I hate those videos where they say a man starts from a certain amount of money. It's disgusting. A woman who says that a man is someone who earns from a certain amount, or that he should provide for her and give her a certain amount, or else, well, for me, that's not a woman. I honestly feel sorry for her and ashamed of her parents who raised such a wonderful creature, who dares to say that a man is someone who makes 500,000 or 1,000,000. The number of people who make that much, are they crazy? How many of them are there in the country? Then most of the time they all wise up. At 30 or 40 years old, when there's no one around, a lonely person can't give anything because they have nothing to offer, because a person who says things like that is empty inside.
How can a man remain calm, confident, and not get caught up in this? That's it. Some guys may see it and think they urgently need to earn money, causing them to lose their footing.
There's nothing wrong with making good money, especially if you earn it honestly. To me, a wealthy person is good if they earn their money honestly. That's jobs, that's demand for certain raw materials, for some production, that's a benefit for the country. That money builds roads, which I think is good, as long as it was earned honestly. Handsome guy. There should be more people like that. Here, in general, people have a very negative attitude toward wealthy people, because from childhood we are taught that you can't earn a lot, that it's only possible through dishonest work, that you can't earn quickly, that it's only possible through dishonest means. That's not always the case either. The key is having the right attitude about money. It can be earned honestly, and believing it's unnecessary is wrong. Money brings comfort. But they're also finite. By the way, there was an interesting study that says there's a certain amount up to which your level of happiness increases. At the same time, it grows along with your level of income. Thanks to education, thanks to clothing, thanks to healthcare, thanks to the fact that you can travel. But then this connection is lost. This connection is lost. Interestingly, why can't many wealthy people stop making money? It's never enough, and you see he's already making billions and still can't stop. Because when you develop an association, a connection between your income and your level of happiness, it really does exist. But the more you earn, the weaker that connection becomes. But that's your only pattern left, since you've often traded things like friendship, relationships, and hobbies for money. Because this mechanism works, it's often the only way to feel pleasure. That's why, in order for us to get pleasure, we can, for example, go to some restaurant or somewhere else and get. We enjoy it about as much as someone else enjoys buying a new watch. And that's why the pleasure that these super rich people get from buying yachts is comparable to how we changed our iPhones, I guess.
I found this study that after
Don't mention the amount, it's very large. This
per year, this is per month, after 700,000 rubles a month, it turns out research by an American scientist shows that for most Americans, it just gets lost.
That is, the further it goes, the less connection there is. The pleasure is lost. So it's not a straight line, it's less.
It disappears, like, So everything is actually okay.
Increase sales, production, and prescriptions.
Apparently, they're asking the guys who also take it, like, what do you think about this at a young age? It seems like a guy is asking about being 25 years old.
I call this a painkiller for the knees. Your knees hurt, for example, because your meniscus is torn. You don't treat it, you just take it. You understand that there's always a cause and effect. The effect is what you feel, the cause is what you don't know. It's likely foolish to take antidepressants if you can address the root cause instead.
Well, what's wrong in a person's life?
That's not always the case. What
Is wrong?
That's the biggest misconception, first of all. Very often, I filmed episodes with Kurpatov. He said depression is often genetically determined, meaning some people are simply prone to it. Someone with depression isn't always experiencing a difficult life. Look at rock musicians, many of whom, figuratively speaking, shot themselves in the head or got hooked on some illegal substances. They're very unhappy, have nothing going for them, and that's how they cope with depression. But everything seems fine for them. They're rich, famous, with nice houses and cars. I mean,
Depression, as I've heard, is real.
it's not about money or infidelity, but when everything seems fine.
And they'll open it?
Yeah, and
A vacation or walks can't always fix it.
it can be treated. Sometimes it has an organic cause. Sometimes the onset can start as far back as the intestines. That is, indeed, severe dysbiosis or bacteriosis can create a precondition for all of this to develop. There are many reasons. It's complicated. And it's not very good that they prescribe antidepressants right away. Many people are in a depressive state, often due to hormones. And that's why my recommendation is, if your doctor prescribes you antidepressants, at the very least, because they often don't do this, be sure to see a good endocrinologist, a good andrologist, for example, and check if you have any deficiencies there. We've had such cases, and there have been quite a few of them. People would already come in on antidepressants, and we would take them off by normalizing their metabolism, nutrition, lifestyle, and getting their hormones in order. They don't take these things because life is good. It's a terrible, indescribable condition. Just ignore it and handle it yourself. It's a tough condition. People don't take antidepressants when things are good.
It's true that it's a one-way road. They don't cure anything. I mean, they're just temporary.
Of course, the cause remains. It's just a painkiller.
The situation, in theory, can get worse or not.
Koleni, let's do it on our knees. For example, your meniscus is torn, you take medications that relieve the symptoms, the pain, you stop taking painkillers, and because of that, you keep putting more strain on it. If your knee hurts, you avoid stepping on it. If it doesn't, you continue. Well,
it definitely doesn't get any better.
The cause doesn't go away, you just put more strain on it. This happens very often. Here's an example. Testosterone is prescribed for a supposed deficiency, but the real issue is depression. As a result, there's a bright window for a month, sometimes a month and a half, sometimes two. He notices a surge of strength, testosterone, and a stimulating effect. He starts going to the gym more, taking on more physical activity. Imagine your knee stops hurting, so you start again, but in the end, there's a terrible crash afterward. This is very important. Don't use testosterone to treat depression or antidepressants for testosterone deficiency. Testosterone is just one possible cause, not the only one. Very often they are also complex. Sometimes depression causes low testosterone, and sometimes low testosterone causes depression. It's a vicious cycle.
If I recall correctly, after a few months on antidepressants and light androgel, I thought I'd try androgel and be able to lift everything. But I felt like I was just taking a sedative. I was only sharing. It felt like just, well, sedatives. Everything became much calmer, better. It was unexpected. Good day. As a representative of people in their 20s, I report that we are concerned about the prices of foods high in protein. And basically everyone tries to buy foods with protein. The more protein, the better. They think, what can I suggest?
Don't give up. I remember as a doctor, I sometimes visited my mom at home. Her place was a source of strength for me, and I loved being there. I don't know why. There's one couch here I love to sleep on. Even now, when I visit, I can nap on it for a few hours and recharge. When I got home and lay down, my mom would ask, "How are things? Is everything okay? Do you need money?" But in reality, sometimes I didn't have any money at all, really. I had nothing. And I was thinking the same way, trying to figure out where protein was cheaper, which cottage cheese had more of it. Maybe it was cheaper to get it from eggs. I remember she would always check my wallet when I went to bed. She'd open it, look inside, and say, "Yo, see, moths are flying out." And she could put a couple thousand in there. I close it, and each time I left, I checked the wallet, open it, see she put it back, and remove it again. No matter how hard it was, I'd put it in my bag and always told her everything was fine. My mom never answered how she was doing in my life. If I ever say, Mom, things aren't going well, or everything is bad or hard, I think parents don't need to know that. Here, when it comes to the guy, I can understand him. I know what it's like to not have money for food. I remember when I was working out there for my first performance and when I spent all my money, all of it, on food. I just didn't have enough money to buy the protein I needed each day. So, what can I say about that? Well, sometimes it's tough, sometimes it's really hard. If you want something for 20 years, things will work out. Look at me. Everything is good now.
You'll manage. Everything will work out.
How to choose.
Between getting a diploma and looking for your own business, I can say for sure that we didn't have these thoughts before. There weren't social networks like there are now. When I was studying, when I graduated from university, I'm an engineer by education. There were no releases or anything like that. Being a business coach is now very popular. Starting your own business and success philosophies are everywhere. Many guys are wondering if they should drop out and start a business.
I'll be honest, the format of education, including medical education, will change soon. It will change. Why? Look, before, the speed at which medical information doubled, it used to take decades. For example, if we look at the 17th century, almost nothing could change for 50 years. Now, the speed of doubling is like this. What if I quit all my jobs, drop all my projects, my sports hobbies, and from morning till night? Just read, and I still wouldn't be able to read even a small part of it. The format of human plus artificial intelligence is the future. Super eternal, and after that, maybe only artificial intelligence will remain. If humans stay, they'll just be an addition. Education, including medical education, is losing relevance. Some things like your anatomy won't change, but pharmacology and new medications will keep evolving rapidly. The basics will always remain in medicine. But I think that education, especially medical education, might be significantly shortened in terms of time. Only the basics will matter. Everything else will be irrelevant, so you'll just need to keep working constantly. With this foundation and artificial intelligence working alongside humans, I'm sure artificial intelligence will eventually handle all medical diagnostics.
Currently, my acquaintances say they upload detailed X-ray descriptions and all their symptoms into ChatGPT-5, and it provides very detailed responses.
It's likely helpful, but I wouldn't use it without a doctor. After all, sometimes it can say complete nonsense, sometimes it lies because it can give an answer, sometimes it lies. But this is the future, this is the future. And that's why actually when people said that you can't get anywhere without a diploma. But I know a huge number of businessmen who have no education at all. That's why the value of education, unfortunately, will decline. But on the other hand, the value of human intelligence will grow. Because access, this easy access to chat and everything else, really makes humanity dumber. Fewer and fewer people will be forced to read or improve themselves. Why bother? You just go there and get an answer. And that's why, in fact, the value of high intelligence, being well read and knowledgeable, it will be even more in demand. But there will be far fewer of them. And there will be, let's say, mass-produced people, and there is a small group of people who will be different.
Some believe social stratification will keep increasing.
Intellectual stratification will rise sharply, because making a choice is difficult, very difficult, as they say, and people always choose the simplest things. And that's why people will unfortunately become dumber. We need education for many reasons, not just one. Many people ask, why do we even need school? I've heard that too. Why do we need school? There are those sines, cosines, cotangents. When have you ever needed them if you're a doctor? No, I agree. Just like many of the poems you learned, you never needed them. But it's a way to develop your brain. It's a way to build neural connections. It's a way to train your mind. And no one has come up with anything better than this classic like Soviet education. It was to really develop your brain, to solve problems, to calculate some formulas, to do computations. All of this really develops your mind and your declarative memory. That's when you read and repeat, neuroplasticity. That's when you find some kind of solution. That's why this is actually a very important point. Another question. What did the guy want from us?
The question is whether to keep studying or drop everything to start a business and find yourself.
When asked about happiness, what do you need?
For happiness, they answered,
If you need it for this, company is a must. From education, probably education. But we live in such a classical state where you can't get by without education. For now, that's all.
People aged 20, 25 mainly worry about making money and starting a family. Seriously, how to build a family. And they watch these reels on social media. Modern girls have a lot of difficulties, or they face all sorts of demands in real life too. And they ask, where are the normal girls? How do you build a family? A guy is 25 years old, and if he faces something that disappoints him,
I see it myself. A huge number. Like I remember the girls when I was 20 and now they're completely different. And before there was a bouquet of flowers, a simple restaurant, something cozy. That was basically enough to go on a date, but now everyone acts like a queen and they all want Rolls Royces and Bentleys. They only completed vocational school and aren't remarkable themselves. That's why I think it's terrible. It's such a degradation.
so it's harder for modern guys than it was for us.
It's harder because through social media, they've been made to believe that everyone can, should, and must live like this. And your boyfriend is supposed to provide you with that standard of living. And if he's not able to give you that level of income, Maldives traveling, then he's not a very good boyfriend. That's not right. And I, for example, can tell my wife that we were together, we met when I had absolutely nothing. And she tells me the same thing all her life. No matter what you achieve, no matter what you get, I will always be proud of your results. I will always support you. Will you have a lot of it or just a little? That is very valuable. And that's why right now I can say to the camera that no one ever. People will approach me at the gym or on the street, but I won't give them a compliment unless I choose to. Because I am very loyal and devoted to her, and not even just to her. You know, as I always say, I am true to my word given to her and to my choice, which I respect. I respect myself and my choices, so I don't cheat on my wife. For me, this is a matter of principle. That's something I rarely see in people, especially young people today. We often see the problem in girls, but we ourselves are also to blame. Our modern generation has changed a lot, and for many, cheating has become normal. It's considered normal to have many sexual partners, 2 or 3 at the same time, but for me, that's not normal. And the fact that girls have been convinced that happiness is about the Maldives, happiness is about expensive cars and those Birkins, that's not what happiness is about. And very few people can live like that, and very few men can let you live like that. And most of the men who can let you live like that will treat you accordingly. Most often in a consumerist way. But they take a small segment of society, like 0.0 something percent, which is absolutely unrepresentative, and they try to impose on society that everyone should live like that. That's impossible. There will never be a place where everyone lives in greater wealth and abundance than others. There will always be someone richer, there will always be someone more beautiful, more successful, more fortunate. Happiness and love as well is about being happy, not with the perfect person, not with the richest, not with the most successful. There are friends who just can't seem to build their personal lives. Because for him, every girl, well, this one isn't quite right here, and that one isn't quite right there. Actually, it's normal to be happy even without wealth or being with the perfect person.
The goal isn't perfection, but happiness. And with happiness comes perfection. Where do you find the right girl for you? That's the question, guys. So, like, if you imagine, where do you find guys with good, proper family values? Everyone's on Instagram, so where do you find them?
I have friends who meet girls in strip clubs or other places, and then they're surprised that the girls aren't what they expected. Well, first of all, maybe start meeting people not just based on looks, because at first everyone is attracted to appearance, not to who the person really is. That's why it's probably smarter to meet people through mutual friends or by seeing them at training sessions or something like that. She comes to the gym makeup free, just focused on working out.
Everyone goes to the gym to show off, but not this girl.
Some people actually work out properly. No,
Some girls work hard, but not like men. There are such cases.
it's not easy. For example, my wife and I met on a dating site, but she didn't reply to me. Later, I found her on social media through mutual friends. And I, for example, think, well, I'm normal, adequate, not a maniac, nothing like that. If I'm on a dating site, surely there are the same healthy, adequate people there. And it's the same principle here. Think about where the same adequate people who share your interests might be, and go there.
And at what age should you start a family? The guys say that you need to get on your feet first, buy a place to live, things like that. And then somewhere after 30, give or take, you can start thinking about family and kids. You already have a family and a child here. What do you think? Should you really wait until you're older, or is it possible to do it earlier? Because honestly, the guys are all fine. Their relationships are okay. But they say, no, no, not now, no kids, nothing yet. Later, 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 let's get on our feet first. It's all like that.
It's hard to say. Science says the ideal age is around 26 or 27.
For a man or for a woman?
This is the optimal age for both men and women. So like at 15 years old, you don't need to build the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. That's probably the age when you can provide the basics, since you're earning and have some life experience. For me, for example, it's a great happiness now that my son is growing up at a time when I can appreciate the level of happiness that fatherhood brings. I don't think I could have appreciated it at 25. I really couldn't. I just wouldn't have been able to appreciate it. And I would have been much less of a person myself, and I wouldn't have been able to give him as much as I'm ready to give now and as I am giving. And it's not just about spending money on a tutor or a nanny. It's about how I feel about the fact that I'm doing certain things. And when he comes up, I put everything aside. I want him to see that he means a lot to me. I want him to get the right example from me so that he grows up to be a strong person. And I spent a lot of time studying how a child's brain develops, what the critical stages are. I mean, I try to help him so that life will be easier for him later on. And this isn't about spoiling him. Yes, giving him everything, allowing it all. No, I think I'll know when he starts to struggle, so that when he goes to school, he won't be shy about standing up for his personal boundaries, so that he'll be confident in himself, so that he'll be a leader from the very beginning. So I'm trying to help him become the best version of himself, not something that I like. I don't expect to get an apple tree by watering an orange tree, but I try to make sure that this apple tree grows into a good apple tree with big apples. I'll help him develop his best qualities, but not shape him for my convenience. And this came to me through the mistakes of my parents, through the mistakes of society, through literature, through friends. It was hard for our parents. For example, none of this information was available, and that's why we were raised completely differently, by the way.
Now they say the model has flipped. In the past, having many children was a sign of poor families, but now having many children is a sign of very wealthy families. If
You want to raise a child and give them everything possible. Yes, it's expensive. It's not a small expense. Really, getting clothes for school, they outgrow everything quickly. Sports for them, there's just not enough time for all of this. And that's why, really. But we need to have children. We have a really big problem right now. In fact, very few people are having kids. It's not only because men and women have health problems.
general, it's like there are a lot of things to do, but
Many people think that you absolutely have to find an apartment. I can tell you that I have a good apartment. I own it. It's big. I thought it would be enough for life, but it's still not. But I don't have an office in this apartment. I have a kid's room, there's a living room, but there's no office. Trust me, there's always another apartment that seems perfect, but it's never enough. Deciding to have a child based on your living space size is probably not the right choice. Judging based on car ownership isn't right either. There should still be a basic minimum, of course. You know, sometimes people live on incomes that are 5, 6, even 10 times less than what you or I make, yet they still raise 2 or 3 kids.
and a lot of married friends have told me that it was actually after having a child that things started to go well for them. There isn't just one story, there are dozens like that. Suddenly, a man's mindset shifts and he becomes extremely focused.
Honestly, I can speak for myself. My mindset didn't change. It wasn't fearlessness that appeared, but a certain fear disappeared. What follows me? What is all this for? Oh, yeah, there's benefit for people, but for what? And what comes after me? And this feeling that he will be there after me gave me more motivation, more energy to do something because it's also being done for him. Absolutely, and this matters to me. I feel more responsible now. I think about how I need to take better care of myself so that Dad can be around for as long as possible.
Great motivation. We definitely filmed that in a video. You need to take care of your health so you'll be able to run, play, and do sports with your kids and hopefully grandkids in 20 or 30 years.
Yes, that's very important. Especially now I'm at home, I've had knee surgery and my shoulder hurts. I had a professional competitive career, not the healthiest one. I was into professional bodybuilding and wrestling. There were injuries there. Even now, I still try to push myself as much as possible, and I have my moments. I wonder if I'll end up paying for it later, like Ronnie Coleman walking around on crutches. Well, I think everything should be fine. It's important since your health at 50, 60, or 70 is shaped in your 20s or 30s. That is, it's not like you can preserve something in just 3 to 5 years. That's why what I do every day now, taking my vitamins, going to workouts, reading books, is so important. I try to keep my body and mind in balance and not let it all fall apart during the process of healthy aging. None of us has lived forever, but I'll tell you something interesting. Medical data shows that it's highly likely it's 85%. What if the trend of medical development and integration of artificial intelligence continues? What about us? This is the generation that could gain access to cellular immortality in the next 20 years. I'm not talking about cancer, which is also immortal, but about possibly stopping aging. So, probably that's a good incentive if someday they invent a drug that you can inject and stop aging. If that happens to me, for example, by age 60, I want to be there.
I need to make it to 60.
To stay in good shape as much as possible, to save myself, to be in good condition. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, like that. The guys usually have questions, right? For example, a 20, 23-year-old guy might think I should get in shape, work out, build muscle for myself. Nothing bad will happen. People ask if everything will be fine. Like you train for a few months, take a break, then return, and everything seems great. What can you recommend to them? I remember we made a lot of videos about this. We discussed all of it.
Should I answer as a doctor or as a person?
Both ways.
Well, official medicine must always give one answer. And this should never, under any circumstances, be used for fun or anything like that.
This is for you, not for fun. It doesn't matter.
That is, if there are no medical indications, as a doctor, I should never say that it's not a big deal. I should always say no, absolutely not. Dwayne Johnson, you've seen that. He always says he's natural. Well, and there are a lot of such interesting athletes, big healthy ones. John Cena, for example, also says he's natural. They
look too good for
a natural, yes, but I used to judge it without really understanding. When I wasn't involved in media myself, I thought it would be hard for you to admit that you're lying to people. And a lot of people hate on them, make expose videos about them, saying they're not naturals. Actually, I think they're doing the right thing. Because admitting the fact that they're using substances, no matter how absurd it may seem, would lead to a huge number of people starting to use them too, just to become like them. And here I think it's an absolute question. Strong people aren't necessarily afraid, they just don't want to promote it. Acknowledging you're taking chemistry may seem like endorsing it, but confessing isn't about fear. No one will ever say anything to them in their life. No one will even think about them. It's actually a strong move because they get more hate for claiming they're natural, but they're doing the right thing. Regarding the claim that the cycle is completely harmless, many athletes compete and stay on a huge amount of substances for years without stopping. And in fact, if everything is done properly, you won't get any real harm to your health. You'll get much more harm from using alcohol, tobacco, or illegal substances, some mind-altering ones, which you can basically just go and buy. Continuation. But there are times in life, really, when you finally start to feel some confidence in a person because he has gained muscle mass. Well, for years he couldn't change something about himself. There really are people like that. Let's be honest, no need to pretend. He changed his life by first changing his mindset, then making physical and other changes. At one point in his life, people began noticing him more as he improved his appearance and overcame psychological barriers.
In short, it's important and necessary. Sometimes it happens.
Sometimes it happens, sometimes it does. But as a doctor, I still can't say that it's safe. Use it at your own risk.
What do you think about
tattoos? If you dig into the science, I know that not all tattoos are the same. That's the first thing. Second, it all depends on what is used as ink. And the only proven harm, probably, that we have right now, if I remember correctly, it's the red pigment. You should be careful with tattoos that use red pigment because it's the one that, especially in large amounts, increases the risk of developing blood cancer. If I remember right, I think it's lymphomas. The risk of lymphomas increases if you get tattoos with this red pigment. That's roughly how the study sounded. Of course, there are different kinds of tattoos. There are people who, do total black, just cover themselves completely in black ink, and you can't even tell what color their skin is. That's terrible, of course.
It's forbidden to donate, to be a donor because of a tattoo. Yeah?
People have such a negative attitude toward this. Actually, I think it's probably more connected with some kind of, as it seems to me, superstitions. That
It's not a specific medical fact, just that the blood is wrong, worse, or different.
Absolutely not at all, I think. And the same goes, by the way, for the use of hormonal drugs. So, if you use hormonal drugs, you can't, regardless of what you're creating. Donation, yes, donation. Plasma, everything, everything. Yes, you can't be a blood donor if you're on hormonal drugs. So, if you're injecting testosterone, if you're some kind of bodybuilder and you donate because your blood is thick, well, as a donor, that's probably not the right thing to do. Many people then use this blood. Can you imagine some kind of situation like this? Grandmother's got an intravenous with it.
And she's like,
There's testosterone in there, yeah.
yeah. So, which ones today? What parts of our ancestors' lifestyle should we adopt?
I wanted to make an episode, and I might. It's called Man in the Forest, and actually become a man in the forest is a kind of slogan for men's health. Because modern society and all this environment, the microenvironment, it creates not very good consequences in our bodies. And probably the desire to return as closely as possible to how people used to live is probably the main principle of achieving health. This applies to the foods you choose, the way you cook them, your sleeping conditions, the air quality, everything, and also the amount of physical activity. All of this shapes your health, and that's why everything modern. It's convenient you have a refrigerator, and good you have an air conditioner. It's great to have many comforts, but they harm your health. You need to realize that. That's why you need to fight against excessive nighttime lighting. You should avoid chronic pathological noise. Great.
The episodes were about all the irritating factors of the modern world. It's really,
There is, and it actually causes harm. It really does cause harm. And that's why there's this desire to run away to a cave. Of course, I don't have that desire, but understanding the harm, I try to remove these negative traces of the modern world and my own life.
here's a question. There are a couple of identical ones. Which vitamins should you take constantly, without any tests? Like, in general, for everyone, always.
First, you need to eat properly. Even though I produce vitamins, I always tell everyone everywhere that the first foundation is proper nutrition. Physical activity, sleep, psycho-emotional health, and social hygiene. That is RILS and everything else. And this is like an add-on, a supplement. For example, on our website, when you go there, it says that it's all for memory. You don't have to say, I have a weak memory. That's just the starting point.
That's it. Like, people see it as leveling up like a superhero, improving their memory and other skills.
It doesn't work like that. But there are certain things that can make you stronger, make you better. Like taking extra creatine or, for example, extra magnesium. But whatever supplement I name for you right now, it would probably sound strange because it would be the same for you. And, for example, for Eddie Hall, who weighs about 220 kilograms, probably, yes, but
Really, listen, people's weight can differ by 2 or 3 times, but the recommended dose on the bottle is the same for everyone, like 1 per day.
many recommended amounts, like for vitamin D, differ from what individuals actually need. The recommended amount set, for example, by the Ministry of Health is 600 units per day. In my opinion, though, it should be 2,000 units per day. Because the recommended amount of vitamin D is only associated with mineralization and calcium metabolism. I recently made a post about this as well. There are dozens of mechanisms involved, and it affects dozens of genes too. And this ranges from psycho-emotional health to fertility, but no one prescribes vitamin D for these reasons. and guidelines recommend it for entirely different parameters. Here are the American guidelines. They also, mainly based on osteoporosis and osteopenia. They say that either you should take high doses or not take it at all, and no one considers any other reasons. Continued. And this also applies to omega. Omega in the 90s. In my opinion, it is involved in genetically mediated mechanisms, and absolutely any of these mechanisms. Why do we take creatine? To bulk up. But in reality, it has huge potential in terms of cognitive function.
Here's a question about creatine. I remember watching a lot of those videos with you. I took creatine once, started taking a little bit, and I felt some discomfort in my stomach, something with my intestines, like something was off. Someone else tried, same result. A third person took it and had no issues. It's kind of like
Without
additives to ask.
so that I would send you.
Yes. Well, I mean, I don't know. There was nothing in the capsules from him, so everything's okay. Something like that. I mean, he kind of,
I think maybe sometimes it happens that a person gets a placebo, and that's why there are no side effects. Creatine draws water into itself, and there can really be problems, sometimes with the gastrointestinal tract, meaning it can have a laxative effect, but swelling is a normal part of its use. Creatine, now, for example, I would recommend that many elderly people take it for a long period of time to add it so that their brains work better. It really does help. And that's why I don't really like even such basic supplements, okay? I won't mention the dose, but I'll tell you which supplements are most common. It's vitamin D. Why is it better not to take them without testing first? That's the correct position for a doctor, but in reality, it's most often deficient. Most often, both men and women need to take extra magnesium. Zinc is often very important. For women, it's iron, also omega for everyone. That is, omega, vitamin D, and magnesium. These are the three. And iron, zinc, very often together as well. For women, especially iron. For men, zinc. The paradox is we rarely discuss other deficiencies and generally don't view them as supplements. There's also very little fiber. Sometimes I would probably recommend taking some additional antioxidants. And among the options, I like astaxanthin and resveratrol. I would probably choose just one of them. I'd recommend astaxanthin for women. B vitamins can be deficient. Why else does a deficiency develop? It's not just about not consuming something. While some products might be involved, some doctors disagree. But there are studies, I've shared them too, showing that the same crops over 50 or even 80 years have changed in composition. There's less and less of that.
less.
And that's true. Secondly, you may have intestinal problems that simply prevent you from absorbing or assimilating something, or you just don't get enough of something. That's why, in reality, there isn't any universal approach. But the supplements I've listed for you might actually improve your quality of life.
You yourself take a pretty wild list. I've seen that. It's a big one.
A list. So I can tell you what I'm taking right now. I'm taking fiber, a microbiome booster. I'm taking vitamin D, omega, magnesium, zinc, B complex, and astaxanthin. So right now I have 7 supplements. Creatine, even though it's beneficial, it retains water. I have lymphedema because of my surgery, and my legs swell a lot because of it. That's why I don't take it. Even though I'd add it, sometimes I can drink my protein.
Well, it's just nerves, yeah. 2 guys asked about a story featuring a 26-year-old man with one sexual partner who has sex twice a year. Because he often has to relieve himself on his own. He lost motivation and self-esteem. What should he do? A young, healthy guy suddenly loses his desire. Does this happen often? Do people ask about this a lot?
It happens often, and even more often than that.
Someone feels anxious because despite being young and healthy, they have no desire.
Back and forth. It happens often, very often. Actually, the most common periods are when a person has some problems with their sex life. Many believe this is about turning 60 or 70. These issues show up at 50, 60, or 70, but develop gradually and smoothly. Your erection quality, just like with a tester, can gradually change over time. It's very rare for everything to be fine until 45, then suddenly change one morning at that age.
Right on your birthday,
and you say goodbye to your erection. It doesn't work like that either. Gradually, when you haven't had your sexual debut or your sexual experience is limited, every new sexual encounter is a huge stress, especially the first one. And your idea of sex is shaped by your friends, acquaintances, movies, pornography, stories, and books. You imagine that you took down the Christmas tree. With a snap of your fingers, you'd get an erection strong enough to hang a bucket on and you'd be fine.
So is it too romanticized?
Yes, it's too romanticized and embellished. Many people, especially because of pornography, develop some kind of body dysmorphia, thinking you can do anything in any position. Everyone is different, so don't compare yourself to others. And these problems are solved either through trusting relationships with your partner. You have to be honest and say, let's try it. Yes, at first maybe we'll have to get things started with a little push. So is that normal? And maybe at first even use some medications, generics, to make it cheaper for a young person, probably. I don't want to mention the brand name. These are the ones that stimulate your erection. Needed.
Positive confirmations are needed. The person will calm down and everything will be okay.
And, of course, it's best to get rid of everything that gives you easy dopamine. We already have an episode about reels, those same ones.
Did you finish? He says he has to do it by hand. He really shouldn't be allowed.
If it works for him during masturbation, it will work for him in bed. He should get rid of pathological masturbation, at least minimize it. Remove all pornography, unnecessary stimulation, have a healthy lifestyle, get rid of bad habits, eliminate social brain pollution, and stop spending too much time on the phone. And through a healthy relationship with his partner, work towards normal sex.
Just like masturbation, everything works just as well with a partner. Biologically, the rest is mental.
This is a simple yet important question. When someone says, "Doctor, I have a problem," everyone, including you, has experienced it. Do you think it's truly a problem? That didn't happen when you were young. Everyone experiences it. I always ask during masturbation or during what I call surrogate sex life, is there a problem during surrogate sex life? He says no. If that's his answer, you don't need to do anything else, not even ultrasounds. If he doesn't have any leaks in his tubes, well, it shouldn't appear in other circumstances. A tube is either leaky or not leaky. It can't be that the vessels are bad here. And with this partner, they suddenly get fixed. There's no valve that allows it one day and blocks it the next. There can be problems with the vessels, that's true, but they're always present. And they're the same whether it's during artificial intercourse or sex with a girl. It's the same. If you have vein problems, you'll have them in both cases.
Exactly, it's a matter of your mind.
Yes, but not with your mind. That's normal. Instability at the beginning of your sex life, especially if it started late, is normal. But I can say one thing. Most often, people with a high level of intelligence suffer from this. Less intelligent people are, unfortunately, less likely to have potency or erection problems. That's what practice shows. Usually, it's smart professors with too many thoughts in their heads. But when it's some fool who doesn't care about anything in life except where to drink and smoke, most often everything is just fine for him. To be continued.
On this wonderful note, I suggest we wrap up. Yes.
This isn't an encouragement to drink or smoke, it's just how it is. Let's soften the bitter pill.
Great episode. Let us know in the comments if you enjoyed these stories, want more, or have any questions. We might record another story like this.
Well, if you like it, we'll record it.
Thank you.